Hey everybody, how's it going? And welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. So obviously, California politicians did not like the Supreme Court's decision in Bruen, which took their state from a may-issue state with the good cause scheme to a shall-issue state, since the good cause scheme is no longer enforceable. So what did California politicians decide to do in response to the Supreme Court? Well, they came up with SB 918 and decided to add nearly 200 amendments to it, most of which are limitations on where you can carry. So many that I don't even see it possible to conduct daily life and still carry in the state of California. I have a list of those amended places, and we're going to go over that list here today so you guys can hear exactly what California politicians have come up with in order to keep you from carrying pretty much at all. So let's get to the list. Now, real quick before we get started, if you wouldn't mind, check out the main sponsor of this channel. I'll have a link to them down below, and that is the USCCA. With your USCCA membership, you get things like self-defense liability insurance. You get online education. You get training and how to respond to certain situations. There's reciprocity maps and a lot more. So definitely check out the sponsor of this channel, USCCA. All right, so I'm going to have to put on my reading glasses for this one. There's quite a bit here. I'll put a link to this bill down below if you want to read it for yourself. Any of the amendments that were added to this bill are all going to be in blue. Anything that was removed or stricken is going to be in red, and then standard text obviously is going to be in black, and that'll help you understand it just a little bit more. But the restrictions on where you can carry, I should mention, are on top of a lot more requirements as well, like 16 hours worth of training. There's a lot of fees. They've actually increased the amount of fees that you could experience, including psych evaluations and stuff. So you could be looking at an extra $200 fee just for that. I mean, there's a lot more to it. So 16 hours of training, $200 fee. They're going to do background checks. They want you to have references, at least 3, that they're actually going to physically interview people like, your ex-partners, your parents, things like that. They're going to interview these people just to make sure you're of good moral character, because what they did is they sort of erased the good cause requirement and then replaced it with of good moral character. So they went from one scheme to another scheme altogether. That's on top of all of these restrictions in places you can carry as well. And you can read all of those in the bill, SB 918, which is going to be down below. So let me go ahead and put on my reading glasses here so I can get this to you guys correctly, because there really is quite a bit here. So Section 25, Section 26230 is added to the Penal Code to read: a person granted a license to carry a pistol, revolver, or other firearm capable of being concealed upon the person pursuant to Section 26150, 26155, or 26170 shall not carry a firearm on or into any of the following: a place prohibited by Section 626.9, so that's pretty much your standard places prior to this. Number 2, a building, real property, or parking area under the control of a preschool or child care facility, including a room, portion of a building under control of preschool or child facility, etc. So if you are in a, let's say, another building, right? Sometimes you get these like preschools and stuff that are part of a larger structure, like a shopping mall or something like that, and there's a daycare, preschool facility in there. If that is still attached to the building in any way, then you couldn't carry there. But this also includes any property that is attached to it. So you couldn't even enter the parking lot. Let's just say, for instance, that you have to go to I don't know, you want to go to a hat shop, right? You want to go get a new hat. The hat is over here. The child care facility is over here, but the parking lot is connected between the two. You couldn't even go onto that parking lot because the parking lot is part of that daycare preschool facility. So you would be completely out of luck just going there. Okay, number 3, a building, parking area, or portion of a building under control of an officer of the executive, legislative branch of the state government. Number 4, a building designated for a court proceeding, including matters of the Superior Court, District Courts, Courts of Appeals, California Supreme Court, and so forth. A building, parking area, or portion of the building under the control of a unit of the local government, unless it's being carried for purposes of training pursuant to 26165. We have number 6 here, a building, real property, or parking area under the control of an adult or juvenile detention or correction facility, prison, or jail. Number 7, a building, real property, and parking area under the control of a public or private hospital or hospital affiliate, mental health facility, nursing home, medical office, urgent care facility, or other place in which medical services are customarily provided. Okay, so that's number 7. I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to like urgent cares and some of these doctor's offices and places where medical care is provided, a lot of them are going to be in like strip malls, public areas where other things are accessible. I mean, there could be a McDonald's in the parking lot and so forth. And again, they stop you with this at the parking lot. So it doesn't matter if there's 500 other shops there. There could be 500 other shops, but there's one shop that provides urgent care services, right? Well, guess what? You can't even enter the parking lot because that's a parking lot and it's also adjacent. So try and keep that in mind as well. They're basically stopping you from entering the parking lot of pretty much all these businesses, and it gets a lot worse. So we're going to move on to number 8 here. A bus, train, or other form of transportation paid for in whole or in part with public funds and a building, real property, or parking area under the control of a transportation authority supported in whole or in part by public funds. So it could be transportation that gets maybe a public grant, from the government, or a grant from the government in order to run. That would still be off limits, even though it's not like public transportation. It could be something, again, where they just receive funds, and then you couldn't even enter the parking lot without it being locked in a locked container. That comes up a little bit later, but basically in order to enter these areas, you'd have to first unload it and put it in a locked container prior to entering some of these areas, and some of these areas they're just not permitted at all, like period. So another one here, number 9, a building, real property, and parking area under the control of a vendor or an establishment where intoxicating liquor is sold for consumption on the premises. Okay? Bowling alleys, some movie theaters, malls, restaurants, I mean, you name it. The list goes on and on, right? So anywhere where alcohol is sold for consumption on the premises, that's a no-go. Right off the bat right there. I mean, go ahead and make your own list of places that actually sell alcohol for consumption on their property, and your list will be pretty long. So number 10 is a public gathering or special event conducted on a property open to the public that requires the issuance of a permit from a federal, state, or local government, and the sidewalk or street immediately adjacent to that public gathering or special event, but is not more than 1,000 feet from the event or gathering, provided this prohibition shall not apply to a licensee who must walk through the public gathering in order to access their residence, place of business, or vehicle. So, I mean, the amount of public gatherings that might require a license. So if you have a certain amount of people that want to gather in a specific place, you have to get a license for it. And that means that once that license is granted, and you now have all of these people in that public spot, right, that have been granted that license, the sidewalk, the street, and all of that stuff that's adjacent to where the license was granted is now off limits as well. That includes the street. That means driving through. Just simply driving past a place that yesterday had nobody in it, so, it's perfectly fine, right? So it's legal one day. Driving again or walking next to that place that now has a permit that you were never notified about by any means, way, or form, you now would be violating this penal code because you've now walked within 1,000 feet or on the sidewalk of a place that was perfectly fine yesterday. Number 11. A playground or public or private youth center as defined in section 2626.95, and a street or sidewalk immediately adjacent to the playground or youth center. So any playground, public, private youth center, forget about it. You're done. Can't even go on the sidewalk or the street adjacent to it. So for instance, if I leave where my house is here, I go out to the main street and I make a right, there's a park there. Okay, and there's a park and a youth center right there, which means I could not leave my property and make a right. I would have to somehow find a way to go around that doesn't violate any of these, laws. Find a way to go around that particular spot, but I don't think there's any way for me to do it because there's also federal buildings on the other street. So I'd be blocked basically from both directions, meaning that I can't carry. So moving on here. Number 13, real property under the control of the Department of Parks and Recreations or Department of Fish and Wildlife, except those areas designated for hunting, pursuant to Section 5003.1 of the Public Resource Code. And basically any public grounds, they basically exclude hunting and stuff like that. So where it's permitted by law specifically. Number 14, any area under the control of public or private community college or university, including but not limited to buildings, classrooms, laboratories, medical clinics, hospitals, artistic venues, athletic fields or venues, entertainment venues, officially recognized university-related organization properties, whether owned or leased, and any real property, including parking areas, sidewalks, and common areas. Number 15, a building, real property, or parking area that is or would be used for gambling, gaming of any kind whatsoever, including limited to casinos, gambling establishments, bingo, operations facilities, and so forth, okay? Number 16, a stadium area or real property or parking area under the control of a stadium arena, a stadium arena is how it starts, a stadium arena or real property or parking area under the control of a stadium arena or a collegiate or professional sporting or e-sporting event. So any of those, just forget about it, completely off, including the parking lot, so you couldn't even drive in. Number 17, a building, real property, or parking area under the control of the public library. 18, building, real public property or parking area under the control of the airport or passenger vessel terminal, as those terms are defined in subdivision A of section 171.5. So before it used to be that, like going onto airport property, that was okay, but you just couldn't go into any of the restricted areas, right? If it was like a restricted area, in the airport, certain places like that, you couldn't do it, but now they're saying you can't even enter the parking lot, or anything adjacent to it. That is now, according to this, off. A building, real property, or parking area under the control of an airport or passenger vessel terminal, as those terms are defined again in the same subsection. So a parking area under the control of the airport terminal, we got that. A building, real property, or parking area under the control of an amusement park. A building, real property, or parking area under the control of a zoo or museum. A street, driveway, parking area, property, building, or facility owned, leased, controlled, or used by a nuclear energy storage facility. Anything to do with nuclear. That one's, I think that's already been around. I don't even know why they have that as an amendment, but it's there. Number 22, a church, synagogue, mosque, or other place of worship, including any parking area immediately adjacent to thereof, unless the operator of the place of worship clearly and conspicuously posts a sign at the entrance of the building or on the premises indicating that license permit holders are permitted to carry firearms on the property. Signs shall be of a uniform design and prescribed by the Department of Justice and shall be at least 4 inches by 6 inches inside. So basically, you cannot go anywhere, any place of worship whatsoever, unless that place of worship has expressly permitted it by posting these signs that are approved by the DOJ. So I'm wondering now if you guys finally see why I say it is impossible. Let's see, number 23, a financial institution or parking area under the control of a financial institution. So for instance, my Walmart down the street, which has a lot of food vendors and a lot of other places you can go, Bath & Body Works, like all these different shops and stores and stuff like that, also has a Bank of America and a Chase in the same parking lot. So guess what? You can't go to Walmart or any of those other places or any other place that's listed in the same place as a financial institution. Number 24, a police, sheriff, or highway patrol station or parking area under the control of a law enforcement agency. Number 25, a polling place, voting center, precinct, or other area or location where votes are being cast or casted ballots are being returned or counted, etc. Number 26, any other privately owned commercial establishment that is open. Okay, this is the big one. Number 26, any other privately owned commercial establishment that is open to the public. Okay? Any business that's open to the public, unless the operator of the establishment clearly and conspicuously posts a sign at the entrance of the building or on the premises indicating that license holders are permitted to carry firearms on the property. Sign shall be of uniform design and as prescribed by the Department of Justice and be at least, inches. Okay, so that means that if you're just traveling around, maybe you have made it somewhere. Okay, you've made it somewhere and you've avoided all of these different places so far. And you finally made it to the place that you're actually, decided to go. Maybe you drove all over town just to be within the law, right? I wouldn't I really don't give a shit, but let's just say that you actually drive around all that stuff, right? And you finally make it to your final destination. If that business does not have a sign in the window that expressly says that you can carry there, then it is prohibited by law, according to this. Anywhere, forget it. California, it's impossible. Any other place or area prohibited by other provisions of state law, 28, any area where firearms are prohibited under federal law, blah, blah, notwithstanding subsection B, transport of, concealed ammunition, firearm, and so forth. So, those are just the amended places, okay? Like I said before, the other places that were originally already prohibited are still prohibited. So you still have a long list of places that are prohibited to carry. This just simply expands on that list. And because each one of those subsections, each one of those numbers that I read you guys included one or more places, it pretty much limits everything. So if you went through that entire list, I'm going to leave the house today, right? I'm driving down the street. I cannot be on a road adjacent to property A or B. I'm already done. I could maybe make a right and try and go around property A or B, but maybe there's a park, or maybe a sporting arena or something like that. I can't go that way. You're done. Maybe you want to go and do a task at your local shopping mall, but guess what? The shopping mall has, something in it for the federal government or local police, right? The substation or something like that. You're done. You can't go to the mall. So in this list, if I compile this list all together, even if a business puts a sign in their window that expressly says you can carry here, that may not even matter. Because if they're located, let's say, in the same place as a medical facility, or a medical facility is in their same parking lot, it wouldn't matter if they allow you in with, with your permit, because you can't go in a friggin' parking lot with your permit anyway. So you'd already be out of California's bounds for carry at this point. And so what we have here, and let's just be completely honest, is a complete prohibition on carry through legislation. So they have basically legislated away just about every place you could possibly carry, creating a prohibition which has taken a may issue state to what we thought was going to be a shall issue state, to which is now effectively a shall issue state with no actual carry. So it's like a no issue state. What's the big deal? So you have your permit, but you can't use it anywhere. And those people that already have their permits, look, this is set to take place the second it gets signed. So we already know that it passed the Senate. It's on its way. It's going to be on its way soon here to the governor's desk. And it has an emergency amendment in it. We know that he's going to sign it. He's already said he's going to sign it. And it has an emergency amendment in it that means the moment that he actually puts his name on that document, it is now law. There's no time frame for adjustment or a learning curve or some type of process where people can watch videos like this and maybe get a better understanding of exactly where they're allowed and where they're not under this new, law, which is clearly unconstitutional to begin with. But there's no processing time whatsoever. It becomes law immediately. And so those people who are just going about their daily business, who've had a permit for the past 10 years, now guess what? They may not even know that this has taken effect. And here they are, maybe walking in their local first aid clinic or something, and boom, you're done. And the problem is that there is potential jail time that's involved. There is significant fines. You will lose your ability to obtain a permit for something like 10 years. So if you are caught in one of these places, they've made the penalties pretty high. They're pretty steep. Again, you lose the ability to carry for 10 years. You lose your permit. All of that stuff is taken away from you. And the amount of other things that are in this bill as well that would essentially prohibit you is outstanding. So the number of people that are going to get it are still going to be small. The number of people who can actually effectively use it are going to be just about zero. So this hopefully will, get overturned once it's actually signed. You can't really do anything until it's, made law. But I know that the CRPA and the FBC and everybody's already got their eyes on this one. So we'll take this one to court and we'll try and get it overturned as well, because it's clearly a violation of our constitutional rights. But I wanted to make you guys aware of it. I know it's kind of a long video, but I thank you all very much for watching. Please like, subscribe if you wouldn't mind. Have a great day.